Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We are live. It's your boy Tommyboiii. Damn right it is. You know it. What's up, Facebook? What's up, YouTube? Today's a very special day. I'm actually quite nervous about this particular live, about this call. I don't know why. Maybe it's because it's been coming for a while and it's been building up for me for quite a while. And this man who I'm going to introduce is a true, I think he's creating a shift that we've all been aware of, but it just needs more people to do it. And this guy is just doing it. And I am really glad that I have somewhat of a connection with him on a friendly level. He's a poet. He's a multi-instrumentalist like myself. I connect there with him very strongly. He's a poet. Yes, I am also a poet-ish. I don't practice it as much as he does. He's an author. He's an incredible artist. Whenever you see his shows, live shows, or go to his shows, you will, from what I'm seeing online, it's his art shines through his soul, through his body, through his brains, through his knowledge, straight into your existence. He's an intuitive healer, which is one of the reasons why I'm mostly excited about having him here. And the founder of Listening to Smile. He's literally healing people all over the world, thousands of people as we speak, through frequencies and music. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know how else I could introduce this gentleman, and there's much more to come during this musical journey of conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, Ian Morris from Listening to Smile. Ian.
Hello.
Chucktown.
That's right.
Charleston.
Yeah.
Ian, where are you finding yourself right now?
So right now I'm in Abbeville, South Carolina. So it's upstate South Carolina. I'm here in the area working with veteran centers, hospice, the Humane Society, a lot of different organizations with our music, So it's brought me to this area.
Let's go straight in there then.
Okay.
That's beautiful. So
Yeah.
You're away from Charleston right now. You moved away, and your Listening to Smile CDs have entered the space of care homes and also hospitals.
Yeah. So for the last 2 years, we were in Pittsburgh and did some events with Carnegie Mellon University, did some events with University of Pittsburgh Medical Center, worked with the Agency for Aging and the continuing education classes for doctors and nurses through UPMC, and did some events with them. So that was a lot of fun. And then coming back to the area, we started in Greenwood, South Carolina. We just put in hospice, we put our music in every room and gave the option that, people that are in the transition period, not only the family members, but also the patients and clients that hospice is working with, has the option now to listen to this music. And where the idea came from was two places. Boyd Stow, who's from Charleston, works with us, and he is a veteran. And he said, this music really needs to get into the veterans communities, to help with PTSD and trauma, but also with insomnia. And a lot of people have problems with pain management. And he said, I really think this would be a great tool for people. So let's start, utilizing this gift by, making donations to the veteran centers. So that's really how this whole thing started. But then the veteran centers started encouraging us, we're working with substance abuse centers. We're working with mental health organizations in conjunction with the Veteran Center. And would you consider making a donation to those areas as well? And so as a company, we just had a meeting and decided that we picked one CD, which we felt really represented our work, as a whole. And we just decided to gift that this year to all of these organizations. And so when we gift these organizations this music, we also go in and teach them a little bit about the music and about implementing it, and how it can kind of work in tandem with what they're already doing. So
Which CD is that you give?
For Pain Relief, the For Pain Relief album.
For Pain Relief? I'm going to check
Yes.
that out.
Mm-hmm.
And you say that transitional period. When you say transitional period, is that the end of one's life?
Yes.
Yeah. For
Mhm.
for soothing certain pains.
Yeah. So I read this story. Rumi, the poet Rumi. So I
Yeah.
was reading these stories and these articles about people that were in that transition, and experiencing a lot of fear and uncertainty, along with the pain of, the end of life. And so there was people claiming that reading Rumi's poetry was giving people a lot of hope and, a new perspective on the outlook of, that transition. And I said,
Mhm.
man, how cool is that, to be a part of someone's life in that way. Like if you're a filmmaker or a musician and someone leaves your show or leaves a movie and they're affected in their life, and, that's a powerful thing. But someone who's facing death and who could be uncertain or fearful or having a lot of pain and could find reprieve, and, someone saying, hey, check out this music, put on these headphones and see what this does, with what you're experiencing, and to be a part of something that lessens that burden, for even just a few minutes, is a very humbling experience. So,
Lessens that burden. Wow, that's a great line. Is that something that you've just come up with, or
just off the top of my head there, but
very profound, man? I am so excited to be here. Hey, guys, ladies and gentlemen, we are here live with on Coffee with Tea with Ian Morris from Listening to Smile. Anyone that's just jumping in, um, this is one of the most exciting moments in my life. Actually, I have to say, like, there are a few moments in my life that I can look back on and go, like, those are like some of the peaks. Standing underneath the pyramids, or seeing the pyramids for the first time, obviously seeing my child, getting married, my born again experience physically, actually coming back from a drowning experience and waking up again. I remember that moment when I was about to turn 4, and this is another one of those peaks. And I think there's my good friend, our good friend. There's 2 people in the background here controlling YouTube and the Facebook comments. We all know Wiltree and Aliana. She's also a healer, spiritual healer and medium, and she couldn't make it today. I wanted her to be here today, but she wasn't able to make it. But there's a certain level of like excitement that keeps on popping up in every live that I do. I was That was another peak of when I realized who was there with me during the drowning. Uh, I descended into the deeper green, and then I panicked, and then I relaxed, and I was able to surrender myself to what was my fate in that very moment. And that's when I drifted out of conscious into a deeper zone, out of my body, and then back into my body again when I was revived, and so on. So those moments are super. Yeah, that's a long story,
yeah.
but it's only brought me joy, more gift to give back throughout my life, and awareness of my own personal conscious. This is why I'm so super connected to this, because I'm so into healing myself, like, me personally as well, to others. And I'm a musician, and I share that with you, of course. uh, that's kind of how we met as well, back in the day in Charleston,
Yes.
when I was doing this song, this charity song. And then you were there to assist with Instagram that just came out. I was like, yeah,
Mhm.
this new Instagram platform. That's kind of how we met,
Yeah.
in this little coffee shop. And yeah, right. And then we kind of learned from each other, or about each other, through social media and what we were doing. We didn't really connect anymore after that. not like
Yeah.
that, not like this. And so that's kind of where we met those years ago. Can you this, like, there is no call that could be long enough for this topic, really. So I'm just trying to kind of keep it somewhat of a minimum.
Okay.
Um, what what made you start this journey? Because you were already an artist, musician back in the day. How
Yes.
did you start this, and how did you become conscious of this particular item in your life to kind of push that forward?
Yeah. So I ran a company called Homemade Genius, and Homemade Genius was a nonprofit that I ran for almost 9 years, and we worked with underserved kids with music and art lessons. We held concerts and art shows and things of that nature. We were just a performing arts nonprofit that wanted to enrich the community, and that was here in the upstate South Carolina. We worked in Columbia, Greenville, Greenwood, some of the areas up here. But in those interactions with the students, I saw something more than entertainment. I saw lives being changed, perspectives being changed, even personalities, coming more alive, becoming more outgoing, more joyful. Um, and so I just remember on several occasions when we were hosting events with the students saying, wow, these kids are changing on massive levels. Um, and so that was really my first glimpse into sound as a healing tool, creativity as a healing tool. I always knew it was fun and it helped me personally as an artist to express myself and get that out of me. But to see it on that level with, multiple students, 20, 30 kids at a time, was just really an eye-opening experience. And so fast forward about 5 or 6 years later, when I was in Charleston, I had relocated to Charleston and was working there, and I just went through some hardships with my health. I had my wisdom teeth pulled, and shortly after my wisdom teeth were pulled, I got Bell's palsy, where my face muscles, pretty much died. And then I went through a lot of digestion issues. I went through a lot of migraine headaches, heart palpitations, skin rashes, breaking out with foods that I had ate my whole life and had no problems with. So there was all these challenging things that started coming up, but the biggest problem was digestion. I started having excruciating pain when I would eat pretty much any food that I had always ate my whole life. I was having digestion issues. And so when I went to the doctor, it took a long time for them to figure out because there was so many things that were going on at this simultaneously. I think it was hard for them to figure out exactly what was going on. But I had two doctors. One said that I was dealing with MS and side effects and complications of MS, and that by being stressed and the state that I was in was, making it worse than what it could have been. Stress is something that's very detrimental to MS. And then I was also diagnosed by another doctor with colon cancer. So there was kind of a difference of perspective of what exactly was going on. But the one thing for sure is I went at the lowest point about 12 days without food because I told the doctors that it felt better to be hungry than it did to digest food. And so it was just a really crazy time in my life. And so I came home from the emergency room. It was like the fourth trip that year. I came home. I was just really frustrated. I wasn't getting the answers that I needed to move forward. And so I started reading Louise Hay, You Can Heal Your Life, that book. And that led into reading The Healing Power of Sound by Dr. Mitchell Gaynor. And those two books in combination with each other were just the right information at the right time. It was just that kind of perfect storm scenario where everything just kind of clicked. And I remember reading those books and just crying because I was connecting with the information in the books, and it just really resonated with me. And so from that point forward, it was just really no looking back. I dove into the rabbit hole of, frequency, learning everything that I could, sucking in everything from YouTube, looking at sound practitioners that had been doing it for 20 years, asking questions, and just reading and watching documentaries, reading books. I probably read 150 books during that time period, and just really became a sponge, for this. And so the biggest, I think, profound moment was I had put on headphones and truly experienced peace with a binaural beat. And when I did that, I just remember same thing, crying, tears, just connecting with that feeling of like, wow, I'm in my 30s, mid 30s here. And this is probably truly the first time I've ever known peace on this level. And so I started seeing
Wow.
changes, in my body and in my perspective. And so it just really gave me the confidence and courage to dive deeper and deeper and just keep going with it.
What's the story with your mom? Because that's one thing that I was so very well impressed by, really.
Yeah. Well, when I was in Charleston, my weight was about 315, 320 at my heaviest, 315, 320 pounds. And
Wow.
so, yeah,
You
yeah, yeah, for sure.
really?
And yeah, so when you met me, I was kind of in the middle stage, of where I was, but yeah, I within a year and a half, I lost about 110, 115 pounds by just doing breath work, meditation, and sound healing. I wasn't really changing my diet even. It was just a really big focus on release work. And, a lot of people will say in the spiritual community that you take on padding when you're trying to deal with emotional trauma or things like that. And it's a comfort. And I don't know if that's, I hear people say that a lot, but I don't know if that's necessarily the case. But I definitely see how much weight was shed by helping my emotional state,
Oh yeah.
yeah. Yeah. So that kind of led into my mother when she was diagnosed with breast cancer and thyroid cancer, to be more open, seeing my journey, to say, hey, let's try a singing bowl, some binaural beats, and let's change up your diet from what you're eating. And so, yeah, I took care of my mother for about 9 months. Working with her with sharing binaural beats and frequency music and playing sound bowls on her, and just teaching her about mindfulness, about breath, conscious breath, and how powerful that can be to the body, and really breaking it down because my mom wasn't really exposed to kind of the new age philosophies and, outlooks. And so, I was explaining to her, I said, when you're taking in conscious breath and you're doing 10 sets of this, what you're doing is you're actually bringing more oxygen into the body. You're creating more circulation of your blood flow. You're creating more blood flow and oxygen to the organs that need these, to do filtration, to do the upkeep and self-care on the body. You're giving them optimal levels of, existence so that they can do their jobs and help your body heal. And when you explain things on a level that's like that and break it down, in layman's terms, it helps people so that it doesn't seem so woo-woo, the sound, and it helps them to understand that it's not just sound, or it's not just a magic pill. It's not just changing your diet. It's all of the above. It's changing your perspective and mindset. It's changing the nutrition you're taking in, and it's changing through frequency, different brainwave states or heart rates to help you be more relaxed. They're just tools, but ultimately you're the decision maker, that has to decide, I want something better for my life. And these are just all tools that help you accomplish that.
Yeah. And those tools, the product, I guess, right, which is what your company is now, right?
Yes.
You're now branching out internationally, right?
Yeah. We're in 7 different countries right now. So we've grown over the last. So Listening to Smile has been in operation for 6 years, but for the last 3 years, we've really been moving into new areas, new countries.
Okay.
Yeah, and Australia is definitely our largest growth market right now.
Australia.
Yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. They're I think they are one of the more um, woke Western society
Yeah.
countries, from what I'm seeing. And most Australians that I'm communicating with are very much into yoga and lifestyle and all those
Yes.
things. What about Europe? Whereabouts in Europe are you guys? Are you? Is there a specific place?
Well, so right now we have a smaller, but like Scotland, Ireland, and the UK, we're in a few places there, but it's not as large as Australia or Canada. And we just got into two in China, which is really interesting, and one in Mexico we just got into, and but we are in 24 different states, 25 different states in the US now. So with affiliates and people working with our music. So
Yeah, interesting concept. That. Do you find yourself? Um, you obviously practice it yourself, right?
yeah, it's funny because I've had these conversations with people that will come to like one event and they'll say, man, this last hour and a half, it had such a profound effect on me. And they said, how much do you listen to it? And I start laughing because, I try to do about an hour in the morning and an hour in the evening before I go to bed. But with the work that I'm doing, I'm working on custom projects for people as well as the music. Every month we put out a new album. So Evan, your friend in Charleston,
Evan
Evan
Lampkin.
Lampkin. Yeah. So we
Yes.
work, recently we brought him in where he's working on a lot of the music with us. And so working with him, working in my own studio, and then doing the customized jobs that we do for people, I'm pretty much working on this music and listening to this music about anywhere from 6 to 8 hours a day. And yeah, so
What
it's
have you created?
yeah,
What have
yeah.
you
So it's a pretty massive exposure. And so there was lots of times where I would find myself, I would just go into nature and I would just start crying. And I was like, what's wrong with me? And it's like, it was the releasing of like listening to the music. And it's like, it's been an ongoing process of like just processing emotions. I had a lot of, as a male in society, we're taught, I played sports, football, basketball, baseball. You're taught just to shake it off. And, it's boys don't cry, that whole scenario, just be tough and, shake it off. And I think for a large part of my life, I suppressed a lot of emotions. I had a lot of people close to me. My sister died, my dad died. One of my best friends died in a car wreck, and the bass player in our band committed suicide. In like a 10-15 year period, I lost about 30 people in that way. So it was just a very challenging time, but I suppressed all of that and just kept going, kept moving forward. So the sickness that I encountered in 2011, 2012, I believe was the culmination of all those suppressed emotions and experienced feelings, the things that were left over in my body. So by using this music as a tool, it helped me to release these emotional entrapments and stagnant energy. And that's what I believe we are doing with all of the affiliates we're working with, as well as the clients around the world that are using this music, because the intention is created from the beginning. That frequency is the foundation, and the music is placed around that. And the focus of all the music is for release work and healing. So it's different than just entertainment. It's a different focus, different intention, different creation process. So
Yeah, let's talk about that. Let's talk
okay,
about the music. I think because obviously, the musicians and the ones that are recording, especially the recording artists, we tend to just have, let's say, drums, bass, keys, guitars, percussion, vocals, backing vocals,
mhm.
shakers, whatever, right?
Yeah,
Or like, that's like a normal band, recording.
yes,
Um, but with your recording, because you've got multiple genres throughout your entire collection, let's say, that you've been recording over the years.
yeah.
Which, how many albums are there now?
I think it's 127. And it's been 127 albums in 6 years. Like it's that's the crazy part. So
I don't know anyone that has created that many albums in that, especially in that like space. Like it's
yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get back to the question or
Okay.
whatever. So you, and then so you got the format of, let's say, the genre, right? You got R&B, you got funk, you got pop, you got all these different genres under the sun. But then you have a sub layer of frequency, tritonal. Is it
Yes.
is it is it mostly tri? Is it mostly three? Is that the way that it
Yeah.
works for you?
Yeah. So we're basically doing, and this is the interesting part, is like I was having a conversation with a doctor the other day that was talking about binaural beats. And I said, the thing about binaural beats is they're not all the same. And what I mean by that is if someone has been listening to binaural beats for an extended period of time, they're going to want the level to be a moderate or a more intense experience because they're exposed to it for a year or 2 years and they've been doing the work with it. So basically, they're going to want a bigger hit, something that really makes a difference. You know what I'm saying? And their listening experience. But someone who's just starting off with the binaural beat, it needs to be very subtle and very light because it might be too intense for them. And so there is not a one size fits all in my opinion, with binaural beats. And so we do a lot of customizing with the experiences, but we do what we call a tritone, and not in a musical term, but just we're using 3 harmonics. So if we started with like 528 hertz, we might do a mid tempo and a bass a mid octave and a bass octave that we blend together as a tritone, and then lay the foundation of the music on top of that. But then the different levels of intensity, of experiencing that will be based on who we're working with or what group of people we're targeting. And then, like for instance, if someone's dealing with trauma and PTSD, you don't want something that's super intense. You want it to be subtle and to work in baby steps. Consistency with the subtlety is going to be more effective in that area. But someone who is dealing with extreme pain, like pain management, and is needing something to help relieve some of the tension and stress in the body might want something a little more intense, that kind of pulls away the focus from the areas of pain and also creates movement in a quicker way, almost like taking a medicine,
Right.
like a prescription. But it's just very different. There's no side effects. It's not something that has to be prescribed. It's just music. It's tonal in its properties. And so when we're working with tonal properties of this music, it's really targeting the heart rate and the brainwave state through that brainwave entrainment. So what I have seen is working with autistic children, and then working with disabilities like dyslexia. I grew up dyslexic and had a lot of challenges with that. And people will say, I don't see dyslexia. I don't see how you struggle with that. And I said, well, about 85% of what I dealt with is pretty much non-existent. Now, the doctors will say, this cannot be cured. You'll have dyslexia for your life. And I believe that that's not true. I believe that there are ways to lessen the burden, and to move forward into a new perspective of how that disability is actually a gift. And it helps you to see things in a different way for a specific reason. If you look at Einstein was dyslexic, there's so many famous people who have done very creative endeavors that were dyslexic. And so I believe it's a perspective, and it also brings with it creativity. Yeah. So like, for instance, Ross McTaggart's in Charleston, a really good friend of mine, artist, DJ, all that. And one day he said, dude, how do you create so much stuff? Like, he's like, people think that the 120 albums or whatever is a big deal, but he's like, they don't see your paintings, your poetry, you're working on side projects with other people. He's like, how do you stay creative and I said, well, there are challenges. There's times when I say, can I create something new that really is new and a different perspective, different feel? But it's like, what happens is it's just getting out of your way. And that's what we try to teach people, is that creativity is such a powerful tool, but most of the time it lays dormant or stagnant or hindered because we start thinking about judgments of other people. What are people going to think of this song? What are people going to think of this poem or this painting? And it creates us from moving into that just wholeheartedly, you know. And I often bring this up. I'll say this real quick. I don't want to talk too much on this, but the James Taylor, Joni Mitchell, you know, all these people in the 60s and 70s, they wrote songs. You know, they wrote songs from their heart, and if it connected with people, so be it. But it was an artistic expression, and they cared not if it was going to, you know, they didn't bring in 14 producers to tell them the right lyrics to sing or how to make $1 million with their music. They said, hey, I'm going to write something from my heart, put it out in the world, and if you resonate with this, then so be it. And it just happened to be that mentality would bring millions of listeners in naturally, organically, you know. And not that there wasn't marketing involved to get it out there, but I'm just saying, like, the intention of the song was very pure. Now, and when you're looking at music today, there's all these producers listed on the credits, and the artist not only is getting taken advantage of on streaming social platforms, and, you know, people are not buying music or supporting shows in the same ways that they were back then, but also now there's all these people with their hands in the pot taking away the art, and it's very, very challenging to make a living as a musician. But there are ways to do it, which is creatively seeking opportunities outside of the structure of the paradigm that's crumbling. You know, it's like so we can get into that more later, but I'm just saying, basically, I believe that music needs to come from a pure place, and from that pure place you can connect with an audience in a more powerful way, in my opinion, by creating those opportunities in that way.
It's funny because in the back office over here, Ruth and Nick are both sitting there completely agreeing with you, because they're both musicians too. And it's like I'm seeing them thinking, yeah, he's completely right. Isn't that beautiful? Like, yes, you're right. We tend to, as like new, like especially these days, we look at what is out there and we think, wow, these guys are really making it. I want to be just like that person. So you start working on the branches or even the leaves first, like the lighting and the way that you look, and then your outfit, and then you're like, okay, let's go and record now. And then, but what am I going to record? Okay, let's write something. No, you're doing it, you know, in a, like, it's not really coming from what the source or the soil, like the dirt, you know, the shit.
Yeah.
Is,
Yeah.
you know, whether you know where the good shit is. That's, yeah, absolutely. I read this article the other day about you, that you did, or actually saw it, by a guy called Guy Lawrence.
Yeah.
In Australia.
Mm-hmm.
Very inspiring as well. He's also definitely a guy to find. And I'm looking for a note that I wrote down, but I can't find it. Isn't that professional? How is your mother doing?
She's cancer free and she's doing really well. She's retired, and she gets to take care of my niece, you know, during the day. And I think my niece is definitely keeping her young. Yeah, she's
Okay.
she's
Is she a
having.
teenager?
No, she's 5. So
Oh,
she's
whoa,
young. Yeah,
whoa.
definitely. Yeah, definitely keeping her young. But yeah, she's doing well. So
So was she in a terminal state at the time?
she was in a pretty severe state. She had a surgery where they removed her thyroid. They were talking about taking both of her breasts, and she had pretty severe pain and was not doing well. You know, having problems getting up in and out of bed and things like that. Just having very low energy, and just not doing well. And so they were going to have that surgery. And my mom, when they took her thyroid, they also found a big tumor between her lungs. And so it was almost like a softball size tumor. So they had to cut her chest open, almost doing an open heart surgery type of approach, and remove that tumor. And so that operation and the thyroid operation was so traumatizing for her. It was a very powerful experience, and the recovery, it was just a very hard for her to go through. So when it came time and they said, we want to take both your breasts and lymph nodes that were infected, she said, I just can't do it. She was like telling our family, like, if this gets me, I've had a good life, I can't go through this
And
again.
she right, and she just lost her husband and her daughter, or a son.
Yeah, it wasn't just she
Right.
lost. Yeah, so my mom was actually in the car wreck with my sister. My sister was 21. A tire blew out in the car, and they hit the guardrail, and the car flipped end over end 6 times. And so my sister was ejected from the car, even though she had a seatbelt on. It was a really severe wreck. And she was hit by an oncoming car on the other lane. And was pronounced dead, at the scene. And then my mom had to be cut out of the car with the jaws of life, and then they flew her on a helicopter to the hospital, airlifted her. And when I got to the hospital, she was in really bad shape. She had, I want to say it was like 12 or 14 bones. It might even have been like 19 bones that were broken in that wreck. But it took her 2 years to walk again, like to get, back to where she could function. The bone in her arm had shattered, and they had to put a metal rod and pins in her arm to like hold everything together. And it was just a very traumatic experience. So there was lots of trauma, lots of pain around that. And then, my father had passed away 2 years before that wreck. So she lost my dad, and that was the only person she was with since she was 18 years old. They dated in high school and got married, and were together that whole time. So when he passed away 2 years later, she went through the car wreck. And then the thing that's really interesting is I tell people is that she healed from the car wreck and was enjoying her life, and then it was just cancer battle, cancer battle, cancer battle. So she's, I was telling my mom, I was like, Mom, you've been through so much in your lifetime, and for you to be a loving, compassionate person is just a miracle, that you're still such a ball of light and have gone through so many things in your life. So that's the role model that I had growing up, was just perseverance, love, and compassion. So it was something that really was led me into the areas that I'm working in, for sure.
Yeah, I see you being a huge part of her, cancer-free state.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. It was so neat to be able to, it almost makes you feel justified in the things that you go through as a healer. I mean, most of the healers that I know have gone through some really traumatizing, powerful experiences. And when you're in that state, you say, why is this happening to me? Sometimes you get angry at God or the universe, and you wonder, why am I going through this? And then, and things like that, where I'm able to share my knowledge with my mother, friends, or family, or clients, it becomes really apparent. This happened so that I could share this information and help other people in these areas.
When you say that your product is now in all these places, does that also mean people that are practicing yoga, maybe teachers or even practitioners? Are there a lot of people now using this method and your product in that? Because obviously it's a very competitive field if you see it as a competition, but really it's an extra tool to use to heal and to use yoga to a deep, trance level. So is it something that you're seeing developing now, that yoga world is kind of using this more, your particular product and so on, and like
Yeah.
healers?
Yeah. Well, one thing I'd love to talk to about with musicians too on this is that yoga studios, for the most part, um, in my encounters, in my opinion, about 90% of them are breaking copyright law. and with music. And what I mean by that is, in a commercial setting, when you're using Spotify and, streaming services like that, you have to pay a music licensing to use it in a commercial setting. So what a lot of yoga teachers don't understand is that when you're taking money from someone for, a class, and then you're using someone else's craft or, intellectual property, it basically is, a violation. So by empowering people, by giving them the knowledge, here's ways you can do it in a way that covers you and allows you to utilize these tools. But we wanted to take it a step further. What if we gave you not only the licensing to use it, but you could resell it to your clients? You could utilize it in videos on YouTube. You could use it on your podcast. You could use it in all these different ways. So we created a multi-use license, and we started going after the holistic and clinical market and saying, let's do things that are win-win. You're investing in us. We're investing in you. We're giving you more revenue, more tools, more excitement, because we're creating a new album every month. So you have something new. And it's not only just the music, it's frequency based. And you can utilize it as meditation and for sleep and for pain management, but you can also utilize it in yoga. You can utilize it in hiking, biking, cleaning your house. A lot of people email us and say they walk their dog with this music. And, so we try to create a soundtrack of healing that can be for release work and healing, and can be like a soundtrack to that self-care practice for everyone. So we're right now we're working with, hypnotherapists, life coaches, yoga teachers, pain management doctors, pain doctors, and neuroscientists, all kinds of different walks of life are utilizing the music. So it's probably the most challenging part of what we're doing, is creating something that can be utilized on so many different levels from one product,
Right.
So I think that we do our very best to try to meet the middle of the road and have something for everyone.
Yeah, it really is for everyone, and that's the thing about it, is that, like, where do you start your focus? Because it really is for, like, anything that is living, basically, or anything
Yes.
that has ears, or even, I'm sure that if you put, this would be something, if you would put, that challenge that they did, there was a plant in one vitrine and another plant in another vitrine, and the one on the left, people were swearing at and shouting at and really negative, and then on the right, they were speaking very loving words and giving a lot of love to this plant. And like a few weeks down the line, this plant on the left was completely, like, it looked dead, and the one on the right was completely rejuvenated, full of love, and it was springing into life, right?
Yeah.
So if that's such a awesome image, because it's so true in our day-to-day life too, the way that we speak to each other. Even like, I find myself finding myself quite negative with my daughter sometimes, because of the frustration that I build up in myself. It's got nothing to do with her,
right?
And it's like, I need to keep myself intact to not lose it, because I'm only human.
When we just did hospice here, and when we were talking to the organization, we basically said, this music is not just for the clients that you're working with. The biggest part of what we're giving you in this donation is for you to work with this music yourself. And I said, when I was taking care of my mom's a very loving person. She's very compassionate. But when she was in such high thresholds of pain, there was not always the easiest to get along with. And all of us have our moments, you know what I'm saying? But I found myself being very triggered at times because of the way that I was being talked to or treated in those moments. And it wasn't her, it was the pain, it was the things that she was going through. And so for me to be a good caregiver at that time, I needed to be as centered and as balanced as I could. And in those states of being balanced and centered, you have more of a filtration, of your words, of your actions. You have more control over what's going on. When someone has lack of sleep, when someone has lack of nutrition, when someone has, pain thresholds or has, super stress and anxiety, they cannot be good caregivers. And this goes down to parents. This goes down to caregivers, at hospice. This goes to people who are taking care of family members at home. The more work that we can do for ourselves in those ways helps us to be more in control and more compassionate and more loving, more patient with the people that we're working with. And so I believe that this is, COVID has brought a magnifying glass to mental health, where people say, oh, maybe we need to take another look at what's going on here, and so
Listen to smile.com.
Yeah. Yeah. But, it makes people understand more that this can actually be a part of their daily routine for self-care and maintenance, and that their life will effectively take a new direction and one that they want to go, in a more peaceful, balanced state.
We're at 45 minutes right now.
Okay.
We're live on YouTube and on Facebook. I want to do a Q&A in a second.
Okay.
If anybody has any questions for Ian Mars, then please get them ready. Put them in the feeds, and we will bring them forward for you. Before we do that, go to the Q&A. I want to talk about the product itself. I know that you've got the CD line, of course, which is the audio part, but you've also got a course, right?
Well, we have, we have a thing that we call personal frequency coaching. And so basically people sign up for that and they get to ask any questions about sound healing. They get to, get new perspectives and learn a little bit, but they also get a customized playlist based on the focus and intentions that they want to target with the therapy. And then they're able to utilize with headphones at home. They'll get a protocol for a 2-week protocol that gives them a daily routine and ways to utilize the playlist to help them create movement of that energy. So that's, so we have personal frequency coaching, and then we have the affiliate program for like practitioners, clinical or holistic practitioners that want to have all of the needs covered in a commercial setting for licensing, but also being able to resell the program and resell the music as well. So it helps to add extra revenue.
So affiliates, because I'm swimming in a field of affiliates right now.
Yeah.
In a giant pool of affiliates. Anyone that finds this valuable and thinks that this might be valuable for yourself and or for your community, for your own community, let's get in touch. And that's going to be, the more that we can spread this, the more that we can help others, the more benefit it will bring, to ourselves and to others, to our loved ones. Got a few questions coming in. No, just people shouting at me. Never mind. Just kidding. Let's see. Who do we have here in the back office? Before we go to the Q&A, Ruth, Nick, do we have any questions coming in? No questions yet. Nicolaus, you see, we've given so much information. We're overwhelming people with our love. You were telling me the other day about a kind of a trial thing, like 1,000 people with one track, and you were trying to see what would be the one thing that these people were agreeing on. What was it? What was that exactly that you were thinking?
Yeah. So
because also I think that's kind of a scientific side of things too, right? Like,
right.
People might think it's la-di-da, this healing thing, it's like, let's all hug. But there's also the actual like evidence.
Yeah. So I started experimenting with the frequency 390.6, and I found huge movement and energy in my body, but I also found just such a peaceful feeling when working with that frequency. And so we wanted to get other people's interpretations of it, and so we started over this last 3 years, have worked with over 1,500 people with this track. And so we have dubbed it now the Frequency of Peace. It's one that we, really started exploring on our own, outside of, the other research and other work that we have, we work with Royal Raymond Rife. If you're familiar with him,
Nope.
he did a lot of research in the mid 30s there, but body organ frequencies, and he also did a lot of work with cancer, with sound, and just a lot of really innovative research that he did. So outside of the things that we've learned through others' work and study, we started exploring other frequencies on our own. And one of them happened to be 390.6. And so in sharing this track with people, we would just say, we're not going to tell you what this track is. We just want you to listen and to share what your experience is with the track. Just as simple as that. And people would write on the surveys, they would put down like, this is the most peaceful track I've ever heard, or there's so much peace in this, and it was just every single, and it's not an exaggeration. It's like every single survey had the word peace in it at some point. It was like, and so because of that, that's why we said this is the frequency of peace. Like that's just every single person is saying something about peace. And so we also explored putting the frequency in more hip hop and trip hop and like mid tempo songs as well. And the no matter what style of music we were throwing at people, or the tempo, most of the tempos were about 85 to 90 beats, even on the mid tempo upbeat stuff. And people were still saying this song is so peaceful, just such a peaceful song. And so I was like really impressed, I was like, wow, this frequency is really powerful. So we've even started working with that frequency as a pure tone without music, just like what you would hear at a hearing test, like, ooh, can raise your hand if you hear that tone. And it, so we started working with it as a pure tone even. And it's just the same.
As a singular.
Yeah. Just as a one tone, and so it's just really interesting, the response to that. So yeah, it's been fun to be a part of that kind of research as well.
Yeah. I'm still mind blown by this whole thing. Really, every day that I think about it, ever since we spoke on the phone the other day,
so yeah. Musicians, let's just say this. I don't want to cut you off. I just want to say this. A equals 444. So as a musician, if you tune your instruments to A equals 444, and you can work with in C. So C, just above middle C in that tuning, A equals 444, you would be playing 528 hertz, which is the frequency of love. And so a lot of people have even started working in the key of C as A equals 444 to create new songs that are based around the frequency of love in that sense. And so a lot of musicians, I have tried to get them to explore, these alternate tunings. Another one would be A equals 432, which is outside of, and honestly, I won't get into it, today, but there is a conspiracy theory around A equals 440, and you can look at it online, and there's people that are, naysayers and people that believe in it and, all that stuff. But it's really interesting when you look at the research of that, where it came from. So whether you believe that, it's definitely stuff you can read into and go down the rabbit hole, but, I try my best to work in A equals 444 and 432 because they just really resonate with me. And I feel like the music that's created in those tunings just feels better to me, intuitively. And, so I'm trying to get, folk artists and pop artists and different people to explore these tunings in their music to see what they think about it.
You said 432 there, yeah?
Yeah, 432 or 444.
It's such a comfortable one for me. Whenever I listen to, I've got a few reggae albums that were set to 432 instead of 440 or 444, and it's got such a it's like like you instantly find that relaxed inner self, and
Yes.
it's remarkable how different that can hit you, or that it hits you. And I guess it's all within the eye of the beholder as well, because you've got the conspiracy naysayers, or the people that don't believe in it, but then you've got a mass amount of people that swear by it because it's been so effective to them, right? So
Right. Yeah.
maybe there are certain blockages and disbeliefs as well, and maybe whatever is happening in the back office, in the back of their lives
Yeah.
earlier.
Um, this music, I was having a conversation with Arlen. Do you know her? She's a sound healer there in Charleston.
Arlen,
Yeah.
does she have a nasal thing? Does she have a nose?
Yeah, I
No?
think she does. I think she
Okay.
does.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we were having conversation, and I was telling her that music in this capacity is just the perspective of creation is from a different standpoint. You know what I mean? It's like, as an entertainer, you want things to be punchy and to catch people's attention and to come in. And on this music, you want things to kind of fade in and kind of fade out, and to be more subtle and to be more engaging. I always tell people it needs to be subtly epic. Right. So it needs to be chill and relaxing, but also something that, like, if someone goes to see an acoustic performer, no matter how good that performer is, it's not going to be like going to Bonnaroo, right? Going to Bonnaroo and being immersed in that culture for a week, and then coming back home, your vibration is, super sky high, And so I was like, how can we create those kind of experiences at our live events, with this music? I want it to be subtly epic, something that is chill while they're there, but a week later, they're still talking about the effects of what went on at that event. And so,
Right.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Up there, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. This is something actually that I spoke to earlier. I left a voice message. A friend of mine, Roberto Rans, in Turku, West Finland, amazing drummer. Look him up. And I said to him, "This is not just something that is like, you know, something that we can use ourselves for ourselves, but it's also to kind of think about how because he's also a recording artist, like how do you show up to your song? What is it that you are? What is it that you're wanting to translate to your audience, right? So is it something that maybe that can be some kind of a collaboration with you, maybe, or like releasing a song as an artist and say, hey, Ian, or Evan, and etc. Is it possible to kind of collaborate, maybe learn from you a little bit about like how do I bring, if it's a really peaceful song and it's like it's something that's more meaningful, is there a way of learning about how to bring this frequency idea instead of just using the normal tones and the normal drums, bass, guitars, blah blah blah, but actually showing up with different frequencies, frequencies. I thought that was really a cool idea to kind of bring it even more open to the masses, for musicians also to understand, and composers and producers to understand the power of something like that, especially when it's like chill stuff.
Yeah. Well, one of the reasons that I contacted Evan and asked him to start working with me is so that I can free up a little more of my time to work on projects like that. Like we just got last year, we bookmarked frequencymindedmusic.org. Right. So what we're doing is moving into creating a platform for musicians that will give them lessons and kind of references that help them to create this kind of music. And then also we are coming out with a book here in the near future, because we're doing a new album every month. That's taken a lot of priority right now. But in the next few months, we hope to be releasing a book called Frequency is the Fuel. And it's basically a handbook for our music, not only working with it as an end user, but also as a musician to understand more what we're doing with listening to Smile. And everyone is different. I saw a meme one time that said, "You are the only you, and that is your true power." Right. And it just has always stuck with me because what I've gone through, the way I was raised with my family, the town I grew up in, the exposure of different artists and musicians that came to me at this certain times that they came to me, all of those experiences make up me, who I am, the choices based on all of that input that I made. And, in conjunction with the exposure to all of those sources of input, have made me who I am. And no one will be that way. Exactly. No one will be me. I'll never be anyone else, Um, the so basically I just find a real peacefulness in that and being able to share information. There's lots of information on our website. If you go to the resources page at the top, the menu, there's a sacred frequency site on listeningtosmile.com. Yeah.
All right, so I've got 2 websites up there right now.
Yeah, Frequency Minded
Smile.
Music is not live yet, but the
Okay.
Listening to Smile is for sure.
Okay,
And
Frequency Minded Music will be live later on.
yes.
So for now, shall I keep it up there, or shall I?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
okay.
fine. Mhm.
So for later on in
Yes. Yes. Yeah, and so it's just it's an empowering thing to be able to start working in this music and to see it for yourself, as a musician. Like, I feel differently in these tunings. My music I'm creating is different, that kind of thing. So
yeah, my friend Anne, Aliana, the World Tree Anne, medium spiritual healer, she sensed, I told her about the live yesterday, and she said, sense a shift, and which actually did happen already when I spoke with you, that moment and that day. We have 59 comments on my Facebook right now. I really appreciate everybody hanging out here with us, by the way. I'm not going to name everyone because there's too many of us out here right now, and also on YouTube. I see your comments coming in. Thank you so much for your support, everyone on YouTube. And this is the first time that we're going live on YouTube. And this is also an amazing live on Facebook. So this is amazing. And again, affiliates, get in with this if you're passionate about sharing healing and so on, or yoga teachers, etc. This is obviously something that is working, and it's something that I can't wait to start using this within my music, but also for my own peace and mind. Ruth, do we have any questions in there? I can't go through all the questions. Hold on. I'm going to add you to the stream. Are you ready? Are you wearing your makeup? Just kidding. Here you go. Ruth, are you there? Could you unmute your mic? Oh, I just unmuted. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Hi, Ian. What an amazing call. Let me read one of the questions that are coming through YouTube. Rasmus Elton is asking, does it work for helping sleep and insomnia?
Yeah, so I, just to give you a little background on me, I used to work a job at a holding company for a bank, and I would go in at 4 p.m. and get off at 4 a.m. Okay. And so I did that for 2 years. And when I got done with that job, my sleep schedule was completely messed up. I could not sleep. And I had a really hard time sleeping for even 5 hours a night sometimes. And so as you learn in health, sleep is so crucial for your filtration process and for healing. And so what we have found is the album for pain relief that we have that's on the wellness series. That's if you go to listeningtosmile.com and say buy music or whatever, there's a 3 paths you can take, which is the binaural beat path, the wellness series, and then the other albums are the sonic meditations, which are exclusive to the affiliates. So the wellness series is open to the public, and under that wellness series, you'll find the 4 pain relief album. And there's 174, which is a pain relief frequency, and then there's a root chakra frequency. And both of those tracks on that album have been highly effective in helping people that have had insomnia and sleep issues. And simply because what these songs are doing is they're targeting the stress response of the body, and it's getting with the brainwave entrainment and even the heart rate has been, noted from several of the clients that have been working with the music, saying that I feel more relaxed, I feel more peaceful. It helps me to feel more sleepy before I go to bed. So people are working with that album about 10, 15 minutes before they would normally go to bed and lay down. They're working with the music ahead of time and getting kind of like a pre-game, for their sleep. And it's something that has been really effective.
Wow. Okay. Any other questions on YouTube right now? No. Nick? Hold on. Let me add you to the stream. Yes. Nicolas.
Yo.
It's Nick Silva, ladies and gentlemen. Yes.
Hey. Yeah. So let me just click over to I put him in the chat that we had. Let me see.
That's great, by the way, that with insomnia, because I think a lot of people struggle with or falling asleep or the endurance and really getting those full 8 hours, where after 4 hours you start getting rid of the negative toxins and that filtration system, right? That filtration, when that starts happening, and that's crucial to the next day you show up for yourself and to others. So if you can use something like this to show up better, more positive, and insomnia, like, it's huge these days,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Right. Sorry, Nick, go on.
Brenda I can't pronounce her last name.
Leo, my
Yep.
cousin. What's up, Brenda?
Yeah. Have you thought about training yoga instructors and paying them in the form of foundation to help the less fortunate cope?
So we have a yoga teacher that works with us. Her name's Dana Cato. Her background has, she's come from several PTSD experiences in her lifetime, and has really, she reached out as a yoga teacher to start working with us. And we had such a good conversation and connection that Dana actually became my life partner and co-founder with Listening to Smile. So she works with us, and at our live events, she hosts breathwork, meditation, and yoga in conjunction with the sound bath experience that we create. And so what we're doing is the affiliates who sign up, they get an orientation and training to start hosting these on their own. So some of those are yoga teachers, and some of those might be massage therapists or life coaches, or even hypnotherapists that are creating events based around utilizing this music and the resale of the music at those events. So we are in a way empowering people to get to this information. And there are people who are donating time and services to like first responders. And just like us, like this year, we'll probably end up donating around $60,000 to $80,000 just in this area that we're in right now to hospice. We're working with the Humane Society. We're working with veterans groups and things of that nature. So we are giving back in those ways at those organizations.
Fantastic. Are there any other questions, Nick?
There was a technical question about music. Max Moore said a 440 question mark, 442 question mark, 444. How do you bend an A on a piano?
Max. Crazy Max from Chucktown. You know Max.
I don't know if I know Max or not.
Max Moore, drummer, jazz drummer. Okay.
Yeah, so people are, in different time periods, 432 was a concert pitch, and people do tune pianos. Like I've tuned a piano to 444. We've tuned a piano to 432 and kept it in that tuning outside of standard, tune. And so 440, I don't want to make people go down that rabbit hole, but basically there's certain people that have brought information to the public that has shown the research that the Nazi scientists were using in World War II. They were trying to create a level of brainwave entrainment. And one of the things they found in standard tune music, A equals 440, they called it the devil's interval, which was the intervals in between the notes of that tuning. They found to be very dissident in working with plants as well as human cell tissues. They were experimenting. What they were trying to do was create a sound technology that would help create docile followers. They were looking for like subliminal messaging on a level that they could basically control masses of people with sound. And so they were trying to come up with something that could be introduced into the schools so that it was like a programming, leading into. And so what's really interesting is that the Rockefeller Foundation and the Ford Foundations started looking at how fast the Nazi Party rose to power in that area. And they were looking at all the research that they did. And so I think it wasn't supposed to be like a evil outlook or intention, but they were saying, how can we create docile followers to come into the, assembly lines at the factories, that we don't want unique thinkers. We want people that are cookie cutters that just do the same activity day in and day out and don't ask questions, just come work for us. And so they started implementing this, tried to get the tuning changed to A equals 440 and introduce it into the schools. And there was a lot of other things that went with it. You can look it up online. A lot of people say, oh, this is, not real. There's other people that really get into it. But I think it's interesting. If you have an open mind, I think it's really interesting to look into it and to see what resonates with you. Each person's going to feel differently about it. But what I know from my standpoint is that 444 is definitely what really resonates with me as a musician. I've spent a lot of time exploring. And that's just what I ask musicians is tune your instrument and then explore and see what comes up, And I will tell you this, and what's really interesting if you're into numerology is when you tune to A equals 444, most of the intervals between the notes in that solfeggio scale are 111 hertz apart, which is really interesting. Just when you get into the meaning of the number 111, it's really neat to look at.
Right.
Dissect
Okay.
it, Yeah.
Yeah. Very cool. Nick, any more questions? No. I'm gonna add Nick one more time. Nick, thanks so much for being here today.
No problem. Thanks for having me. I thought I was just doing you a favor, and it turns out, man, this is awesome. This is really
It
cool
really is,
stuff.
isn't it?
Yeah. I mean,
I'm really
really
glad
inspiring as a musician, really inspiring, and as a just different ways to heal. It's just amazing. So I'm glad that you asked me. Thank you.
Ruth, also, thank you so much for being here today. You're on mute. I'll unmute.
My pleasure.
Do you guys have any questions?
I do, actually, I do. I'm very curious I'm very surprised actually that you're talking about 444. If I come from the classical world, and I know that nowadays professional orchestras, I'm myself a classical singer, but we are tuning the instruments higher and higher. On 444, it is a quite high tune if we would compare it to when we would tune the instruments on a Baroque period in a 415, which my heart gets much more quiet when I go more towards the 415 than if I go up towards above the 440.
Right.
But I'm very curious how it is. What does the 444 for you bring to you?
Yeah.
Makes sense.
So if you look at different time periods with classical, people will tune 444 because they wanted a brighter string sound, that would cut through the mixes and be able to be more noticeable when you're dealing with like a full orchestra. And so that was always interesting to me. But for me, I think I do things a little differently because I'm creating the tritone. It's not a tritone in a musical term, but just the three harmonics, foundation of every song that we're working with. And I'm really targeting most of the time, about 85% of the time, I'm working with the theta brainwave state with the binaural. So it's like a binaural beat with a mono beat in the middle. So it's the spatial mixing of the music is something that's very powerful for headphone use. And so by creating that binaural beat with the mono beat, it's basically a carrier frequency. The binaural is a carrier frequency for this mono. And it's a very powerful delivery system that really helps to step down the brainwave state to a more subdued, relaxed state. But for me, because I'm using higher frequencies with the mid and the bass octaves blended, that higher frequency is more tolerable than it would be if I just played the pure tone. You see what I'm saying? So, but I believe that where we need consciously to have an expansion is much, much higher than what we could deal with on our listening level, what we're used to right now. And I talk about it being like a sound palette, just like you have a taste palette and you go to the restaurant and they'll give you a food to kind of cleanse, like a ginger or something that cleanses your palate and ready for the next taste that's coming. I believe that when people are up-leveling consciousness, what's really happening is their sound palette is changing, right? And so like when you get up and you're going through your daily activities, you have a mundane sound palette. You pretty much have the same sounds at your house. Driving to work, you probably drive the same way every morning. You're listening to the same sounds. There might be a new siren here or there, but for the most part, it's pretty much the same every day. But when you start getting into sound and exploring new frequencies outside of your normal range of sound palette that you're exposed to, you're expanding the awareness of what your brain starts noticing. So a lot of times people will say, I'm hearing the trees, the leaves in the breeze, and I'm hearing the birds more, and I'm hearing hums of engines more. And they're like, has this changed my hearing? And I said, no, it's exposed you to frequencies. So now the brain is tuning in, and it's becoming more aware of those frequencies through that exposure. So it's becoming more awakened. And so through that awakened, state, it's taking in more, it's becoming more aware. And then you're becoming more aware of your environment, surroundings. So.
Wow.
Yeah. Awesome. That's amazing. Yeah. Yeah. It's so true that I guess that's also where the comfort, people feel comfortable because like, you're sitting in a car for half an hour going at the same speed as you do every day. So there's a hum there. There's that comfort there, that joyride kind of deal maybe. And then, walking into a building that has the same, right. And then you go and eat the same food almost in the same cafeteria, and it's like getting out of that and like walking into nature. Let's say you've got like birds and really throwing yourself outside of that comfort zone that's also very important.
And you have to remember, like before we come into this perceived reality where we are right now, your first interaction with this world is through the mother's womb, through sound and vibration. Right. So it's like we become accustomed, the first thing we're experiencing is sound and vibration. So it's like a lot of times when people are seeking things of comfort, they don't realize how powerful it can be to kind of return to that state of closing your eyes, kind of unplugging your senses and just really focusing on enhancing sound, as a comfort, so.
Yeah, absolutely. I still feel that comfort of my mother. I still feel that, that child's feeling. You remember when I was talking earlier about my drowning? Yeah. When I was laying in my bed in the hospital bed, they sealed my eyes shut, my eyelashes, some tape, and the nurse was standing next to the bed, and I was laying in this really long hall of beds, and my mother walks into the room, and the noise of her footsteps obviously resonate throughout the room, and my heartbeat started going faster, even though I couldn't see her.
Yeah.
And then the nurse said, "Oh, that must be your mother, huh?" Right, because she knew. So my mom, when she came to my bed, she thought that I was already awake, and right, but I was not conscious. I was in a lower state. Not quite a coma state, but I was basically physically being, because of the trauma. And so that always resonates me to that moment where my heartbeat went faster because I could hear that noise that I recognize so deeply from even within the womb, the
Yeah.
footsteps of my mother, you know. And
Yeah.
yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah. Hey, it's way later than I anticipated it to be. I was hoping 45 minutes do a Q&A and then and then call it within an hour, but it's an hour and 20 minutes. So thank you so much for everybody, whether you're on YouTube, Facebook, or on the podcast version of this. You can always find me on tommyhealing.com. Ladies and gentlemen, should we cut it? Do we have any more questions? Nick?
No.
No? Ruth? I also don't have any more questions right now. Is there anything that you would like to add?
Me?
Ian? Yeah?
Oh, yeah. Well, I just think that people get overwhelmed sometimes with the information, but this is very easy to utilize. And it's not something that requires huge amounts of time, and a commitment. So if someone were to get an album like the Pain Relief album and to start working with that just 10 minutes in the morning and 10 minutes at night for a week, we have had a lot of people, email us within a week to 2 weeks saying, I have consistently utilized this music with headphones, for the last week to 2 weeks, and I've seen some really big movements, in my energy, in the way that I was feeling, my perspective, my thoughts. And I just feel like there's not a way, it's not just listening to Smile, but sound therapy in general. If you start working with it on a consistent basis, every time I have seen just movements of energy when people approach it with an open mind and an open heart and start incorporating it. It's such a powerful tool. So just that was what I would say, is that it's easy to just get started. It's not a big commitment.
Right. Okay. Nick, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Ian.
Thank you.
Ruth, thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Ian Morris from listening to smile.com. Thank you so much, friend.
Thank you.
For being here today and taking this time out of your precious day to be here with on my coffee with tea. One of my most epic episodes. Thank you so much for everything.
Thank you,
ladies and
so
gentlemen.
much.
Thank you. Greetings to East Coast and Chucktown. You know where to reach Ian, and you know where to reach me. Have a wonderful day, everybody. YouTube, Facebook, podcast. Be kind. Cheers. If you got any more questions, just leave them in the feed. Bye.